is Living Power with Dan Hurst.
The first thing that he says to her is, it's not about the mountain. It's not about the mountain. You know, you guys think that it's all about the mountain, but I'm telling you, it's not about the mountain. We tend to put priorities and significance on things that are just not that important. Take a look at the thing that you keep messing up on. That thing that keeps coming back and that you keep failing at over and over and over again. What is it that you keep going back to that seems so important but really isn't? What is it that you keep doing over and over again the same way and wonder why you keep getting the same results? Oh, I forgot to hook up the audio. But do you remember this scene from cartoons, those of you who watch them? What are we going to do tonight? And he says the same thing we do every night. Try to take over the world. Pinky and the Brain, I love them. That little line was in every cartoon. And I remember it, and I was a grown-up watching it, which was really weird. But I loved it. But it was the same thing, and I thought, when I was studying this, it's exactly the same thing. We keep trying to do the same thing over and over and over again. And we generally fail over and over and over again because the problem is it's built on the wrong foundation. What mountain do you keep going back to and then fail at? And why? When I was a boy, I loved to go hiking. Growing up in Honduras and in the mountains of Honduras was pretty special. There was great places to go hiking. And there was this one place that we wanted to hike to that was called Santa Lucia. And it was a pretty far piece from our house. But you could see it from the house. You could see that mountaintop from our house. And I had always wanted to go up there. And every time I tried to go to Santa Lucia, about halfway there, I'd get lost. And I never could make it. And I tried, and I'd go with other friends. It'd be buddies of mine. We'd go hiking, and we'd get about halfway up, and we'd get lost. We could never get to this mountaintop. And one day we were sitting around the house, and we were sitting out on the porch, and we were looking up at that mountain, and my friend Bryn says, don't you want to go hike that mountain? Maybe we should go up to Santa Lucia. And I said, every time we go, we get lost. You know, something's not right. And he thought about it for a moment, and he said, maybe if we started from a different path. I said, what do you mean? He said, what if we went around to the other side of the mountain? I thought, well, it's worth a try. And sure enough, we went around to the other side of the mountain. It took us a little longer, but we made it. The problem was that we had started every time before on a path that led us nowhere. And we kept going back to the same start over and over and over again, thinking that this time it would be different. And a lot of us do that in our life. We go back to the beginning to start over again, and we take the same path over and over and over. And then we wonder, why do we end up in the same mess again? Wasn't it Einstein that said, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and wondering why you don't get different results? Or something to that effect. And that's really kind of the principle here. It's this idea that we just keep doing it the same way over and over again, and we keep failing over and over again. Not that we don't want to win, not that we don't want it to be different, but something just goes wrong on that path. I'm a big proponent of what's called the blue ocean theory. It's a marketing theory that a couple of Harvard professors came up with. And it's in its simplified version, it's the idea that instead of fishing the same waters that everybody else is fishing and competing for the same fish, go out to the blue waters where no one else is fishing. Go out to some place where nobody else is doing that. And it's really, believe it or not, a biblical principle. It's in Luke chapter 5, verses 4 through 6. And when he had finished speaking, he said to Simon Peter, go put out to the deep and let down your nets for a catch. And Simon answers, Master, we toiled all night and took nothing. But at your word, I'll let down the nets. And when they had done this, they enclosed a large number of fish, and their nets were breaking. Now, I want you to notice what Simon Peter said here. He said, look, Jesus, we've been doing this over and over and over again, and it always results in failure. We know what we're doing, Jesus. We're fishermen, remember? We know how to do this. And there are just no fish out here. It's the same idea of going back to the same mountain over and over and over again. But Jesus said, it's not that you should stop fishing. It's not that you should stop using nets. But start differently. Starting over requires not going back to the same way of doing things. Don't go back to the mountain, because it's not about the mountain. The second thing that Jesus said is, neither is it about Jerusalem. It's not about Jerusalem either. This argument that we get into, whether we should worship on the mountain or worship in Jerusalem, it's not about the mountain, and it's not about Jerusalem. It's not, and in your life, it's the same thing. It's not about what other people say is the right way to do it. There are people that will point their fingers at you and call you a loser, but their way isn't any better. I've watched with great interest over this past week the things that have gone on in Boston. And I've been reading forums and just kind of getting a feel for where our country is and what our people are feeling, what our people are thinking. And of course, there is that element of patriotism there. But I'm surprised. Actually, I'm just shocked at the incredible hatred that is just foaming in America right now. There is just, I haven't seen it like this ever before. After 9/11, we all came together. We were cohesive. But after this thing that's happened in Boston, there is an element of our society that is angry. They're angry at the world. They're angry at our government. They're angry at other people's beliefs. And it's not just, I disagree with you, but it is angry. And I mean, the language that's used, it's just violent. I'm just surprised. I really am. I was kind of stunned when I saw that. People pointing their fingers and saying, I don't care what you say, you're full of it. And I'm being kind in the way that they say it. And it's just been abhorrent, that attitude, that everybody else is wrong. And I don't care if you do have an answer, you're still wrong as far as I'm concerned. Because the whole world is wrong, and everybody's wrong. And there's this hatred, vehement hatred that's going on right now and that's developing in our country. And now, it spawns other arguments, and other discussions and other nonsense that goes on. And I've been so amazed to watch. Every once in a while, somebody you can tell is a Christian will interject something and say something about Christ or something, about the Word, or just share a verse or something, and they are immediately attacked. I mean, it's amazing. It's brutal. And so there are those people that are going to point their fingers at you and call you a loser, but their way isn't any better. What is it that you have been doing over and over and over again and failing at, and yet people tell you how you're doing it wrong and how to do it right? And it doesn't work. It's not about what seems to be a better way. You see, when you make and implement plans that are built on the wrong premise or the wrong foundations, no matter how good the plans are, it's still wrong. You can have good plans, but if you build in the wrong place, you're in trouble. And so it's not about the mountain, and it's not about Jerusalem. It's not about the common or what everybody else is saying. It's not about what else has worked for other people. It's not about that. Jesus is saying it's not about the mountain, it's not about Jerusalem. And then he says in verse 22 something really, really peculiar. He says, and it's not about what you know. I can tell you, by the way, how to make $1 million. Some of you might want to write this down, and you can start on it this afternoon. There you go, Bert. Write this down, brother. How do you make $1 million? You write a book on the secret to getting rich, and the secret to getting rich is write a book on the secret to getting rich. Everyone is looking for a secret. something that they don't know, some magical element that will transform everything. Tell me something that I don't know that will change my life. I need to know the secret. Have you ever heard some very famous or some very successful person interviewed? They almost always ask them the question, what's your secret? We want to know what the secret is. What is it that the rest of us don't know? And I think it's so amazing how Jesus is saying, look, it's not about what you don't know. In fact, in Ecclesiastes chapter 12, listen to what he says. The words of the wise are like goads. That means little things that stick you. There's this little stabbing to kind of motivate you to get going somewhere. And the nails firmly fixed are collected sayings. They're given by one shepherd. In other words, there's truth that's foundational, that you can hold on to, that you can trust. So the words of the wise and of the shepherd can be trusted, and they can be held on to. But listen to what he says in verse 12. But my son, beware of anything beyond these. Or making many books, there is no end. And much study is a weariness of the flesh. What he's saying is that God has given you your word. God has given you his truth. And anything beyond that is just wearisome. No one has ever succeeded at life and done so because they found a secret that nobody else knows.